Afternoon. Do you reckon this pain in pharma to continue?
Well, I think this pharma probably, we have seen of late that time and again it gets hit by so many news, which often tends to be a little more, kind of damaging in the short run. Whether it is the government decision to ban something or whether it is a US FDA decision which really impacts them. So I think by and large we all know that some of these things are bound to rattle the space. But what is more important, I think, is that overall the growth trajectory still seems to be in place. The rupee seems to be in its favor. So I think all in all we are still going to see a net good growth, and with a reasonable amount of ROEs coming into play for some of these companies. I think this sector will always be viewed a lot more positively, and especially on declines.
Okay, especially on a decline could well be viewed a lot more positively is what Dilip Bhatt is saying. But today there's a bit of a spot of bother there in some of these. The other pack which is holding out today are oil marketing companies. HPCL, IOC, etc. are doing rather well for themselves. There is this talk of maybe a fuel price hike coming in result because of what happened to crude prices. But I think the OMCs are holding out quite well today. Dilip, it seems to be a day of PSUs as well of sorts. PSU banks are doing rather okay, maybe buoyed by the belief that there could be some rate activity. OMCs are doing rather okay. What's your thought process here? Let's start off with the oil marketing companies.
I think OMCs, after a long time, we are going to see a sustainable amount of cash flows really in a very positive way for some of these companies. I think it would be fair to assume that they have good amount of flexibility in pricing, which is what I would assume that they have at the moment, as in when they want to really do it. So I think that being taken into account, I think on a sustainable basis, on a slightly longer term basis, maybe over next 12 to 18 months, I think OMCs will still shine out as compared to the other PSUs, because that is where you see a good amount of sustainability. And I think we'll gradually see the overall ROEs also improving significantly for some of these companies. So I think this space will continue to attract attention as far as the OMCs are concerned. And I think HPBP really looks probably the pick of the lot, though personally we also prefer IOC.
Having said that, oil marketing companies not doing that badly today. Otherwise, I've had a bit of a rough run. By the way, if I just look at the last 15-20 minutes of trade, there's an extremely good price movements again. I think keep on coming back to sugar. That space is actually making a really good move. Then there is Whirlpool, which is actually having a good day. And the last 2 days, AIA Engineering is having a very good run. Whirlpool is up 7% today. That's a big move. Look at AIA Engineering, 888.70, up 3.5% today. Yesterday's session was up about 5% as well. A quality company being beaten down because of the whole commodity collapse, but now starting to claw its way back. So good going here. Two big spikes, two interesting companies. Dilip Bhatt, do you as a house have coverage on either AIA Engineering, which is of course a leader in its space, or for that matter Whirlpool? Because a lot of people believe that these consumer durable companies will benefit a lot because of OROP, as well as the increase in the salaries to the railway class as well.
No, very frankly, we don't have the coverage. But having said that, I think AIA, as what you very rightly said, has some very good parameters going in favor of them, whether you talk about the ROEs or the reasonable amount of cash flows, or if you talk about the fact that the company actually should now benefit because of the overall increase in the GDP and the expansion in the capital cycle. So I think all these things probably point towards the fact that the trajectory broadly should be upwards. So I think that probably looks good. And as far as Whirlpool is concerned, I think you have summed it up. I think one more factor that really is going to go in favor is the raw material cost, which really has come down. And we have seen that all these companies, when the as the interest rates also come down and the discretionary spend goes up, I think you can see all that being captured very well by some of these MNCs, and you can see immediate flow into the EBITDA right up to the bottom line.
Dilip, I remember our conversation a few days ago when you had that conference of yours. You had a few multi-baggers in the conference, and you had mentioned then that there are companies which you believe would actually quadruple their profits in the next 2, 3, 4 years, as the case may be. While this market has inched up a bit, I'm sure companies like those would still attract attention. What is the favorite currently as a house in PL?
Well, I think as far as the mid-caps are concerned, I would say that let me segregate the basket about the mid-cap conference that we held. But apart from the mid-cap conference, I think we certainly like something like a SpiceJet in the mid-cap space. I think that's one stock which really can go places, possibly in the next 1.5 to 2 years. Maybe, the short-term controversy, whatever it is, whatever shape it takes, I think it may not have a real long-term impact on that. But having said that, I think SpiceJet still looks pretty interesting from the medium to long-term perspective. And I think coming from our mid-cap conference basket, I think something like Jamna Auto looks pretty interesting. I think that's a company which probably is now treading the right path, I think observing a good amount of discipline. And they are the ones which are likely to grow by 15-20% on the top line. But I think the bottom line will still show something like 25-30% growth and accompanied by almost about 22 to 24% ROE. So that's a stock which is on our radar at the moment, which I think should do pretty well. And apart from that, there was something like Sutlej Industries, which is basically into the cotton and cotton yarn. So that looks pretty interesting. And something like a Navkar, which I think it has corrected very well ever since the public issue. But that's a company which has the potential to double its profit over next 2 years and possibly maximum maybe 3 years. But that stock also looks pretty interesting among the host of them which you are looking at.
Bad news for pharma. Thanks a lot. Final thoughts from all our experts. And Dilip, before we thank you, what would you be telling your clients to do, assuming the Fed doesn't do too much, or the Fed move is not too damaging, and we have about a 25 bips cut from the Reserve Bank as well. Ahead of the earnings season, would you be in favor of buying into the markets, or would you wait till the earnings is over?
Well, I think two other points which I would like to bring to the attention. I think one is that the FIs have really come back with a good amount of intensity at the moment. I think that's a very positive news. And the other thing which is really going to increase the volatility, of course, is the fact that the IIP numbers continue to be poor. So I think it's a kind of a very mixed and a very kind of a schizophrenic thing. So my call would still be that there will be a lot of volatility, but by and large, I think the market's trajectory will be northwards gradually, and that's what I think.
Okay, Dilip, much appreciate you taking the time out and joining us and giving us